Hello, I'm Ian Scales. You're watching TelecomTV, and we're here at the Internet of Healthcare event in London, and I'm talking with Stephen Goundrey-Smith, who is a pharmaceutical informatics specialist at SGS Farmer Solutions. Stephen, welcome to TelecomTV.
Thank you very much, Ian.
Let's start off with a little bit of backgrounding. Tell me a little bit about SGS Farmer Solutions and your role within that.
So SGS Farmer Solutions provides consultancy services around pharmacy informatics and pharmacy IT. A lot of the work I do is around the national agendas for pharmacy IT, around the summary care record, electronic prescribing. I'm also involved in the standard setting initiative, and that's where I'm really interested in the Internet of Healthcare and connectedness in healthcare.
Obviously we're talking about the Internet of Healthcare here at this event as if it was a very different kind of strand of technology and medicine together. Do you see, how would you define that inflection point?
How do you mean?
I mean, what's different about IoT that it becomes a special area? How has the technology advanced, and how would you characterise that?
I think there are many more opportunities for connected devices these days, and the internet certainly has the ability to connect them. I think the interesting thing in future is how we make that work in the context of the industry. So my particular area is pharmacy and healthcare, and I'm interested to see how that happens, and I think that the devil will be in that detail.
What's the most promising area of development in the area that you were just talking about there, pharmacy and healthcare?
Right now there's a burgeoning number of mobile phone apps for dealing with disease monitoring, adverse event monitoring for drugs, and other aspects of therapy monitoring. And I think to be able to connect those will be fantastic. And I think we're moving towards that now, and that's the area that I'm most interested.
What sort of developments in there are you looking at? What sort of devices that are going to assist you in that area?
So I think we're looking at mobile phone apps and connectivity to things like blood glucose monitors, to smart inhalers, maybe picking up information from smart pill packaging and various other areas like that. And
a smart inhaler interests me. How does that work?
Well, basically it's a standard inhaler, but it has a sensor on it, so it can detect all the actuations. So it can work out how many doses are being taken over a set period of time, and obviously therefore monitor adherence to the medication.
Oh, okay, that's very interesting. Because over time people increase their dosage, don't they, without really realising it? With an inhaler? Certainly
with a when required inhaler, certainly they do, and that's an important thing to monitor in asthma so that one can then adjust the baseline preventer therapy, basically.
What are some of the other things that you could get feedback from? For instance, I suppose blood pressure monitors, which more and more people have now.
Yep, blood pressure monitoring is really important, and particularly to monitor for people who have high risk of stroke and heart attack. So that's an important area. Blood glucose monitoring, HB1AC monitoring, which is for diabetes but slightly more sensitive. That will really benefit from a monitoring scheme, basically.
And in fact, and you listing those out, those are the things which are just a small subset of the things that you could apply, makes me realise there's such a huge amount of scope here.
Absolutely. So there are many diseases that would benefit from this. The areas that I think will be developed first, and the areas where there is most outcomes literature, is the long-term conditions. So asthma, diabetes, coronary heart disease. These are the areas that are hugely costly to the health service, and they will want to use technology to optimise therapy.
Now there's a view that personalised medicine, as we discussed it here, might lead to over-commercialisation, shall we say, consumerization of technology. Do you think that trend holds any difficulties and any dangers up ahead?
I certainly think it's a trend, and we're seeing that very much in the States, where they're much more advanced in the number of different smart devices and systems that you can get. So I think that trend will continue, and I think there are some risks associated with it. We're already seeing a plethora of different apps, and of course they all operate in different ways and collect data in different ways. So, and it's likely that this whole industry area will perhaps develop in the way that suppliers and particularly health professionals don't expect.
Yes, and I mean it's a little bit, in the States of course, there's been a whole history of people doing their own medical stuff
Absolutely.
for ages, haven't they?
Yes,
yes. Ordering drugs and things over the internet and all the rest of it.
Absolutely.
Do you think we should try and put things in place to stop that kind of thing developing, or do you think we should just fire ahead and monitor it as it happens?
I think it's naturally happened that way in the States because it's an insurance-based economy, and here in the NHS, in Britain, it's very different. I think the danger in Britain is that we will try to over-centralise it, and that will lead to fragmentation and the consumerism that you describe, because people won't necessarily buy into the NHS's way of doing it. So I think there's certainly issues here in Britain with how that will develop, but different perhaps to in other parts of the world.
So there's a big dichotomy here too about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. That what you described is a kind of top-down approach to medicine. Some people are arguing that actually you want to empower people to start making choices and delivering the information themselves.
I think there's a bit of a both-and situation here. We certainly want to empower people, and it's really important we have high-quality apps and personalised devices to do that. But at the end of the day, we need an infrastructure, and that won't happen from the bottom up. So one of the issues we're facing at the moment is the National Information Board initiative is looking to put in that infrastructure across the healthcare industry, and that will require a measure of centralisation, and I think they'll need to fit together somehow.
Is that how you see the divergence at the moment, centralisation versus decentralisation?
I think that's one of the main issues. Obviously the history of healthcare IT in this country in the past has been around centralisation with the national programme and now with the National Information Board initiative, and some of that is necessary because of the necessary infrastructure. But how that's done around the edges, I think, will change radically, and we will see many more personalised devices in use.
So there's a long way to go yet, and lots of discussion to be had.
Absolutely, a long way to go, lots of discussion to be had, firstly in terms of what people want from suppliers and from technologies, also from what professionals are comfortable with, and how we will make the communications work in detail. And certainly in medications, my experience with electronic prescribing is that the detail of how the coding works is really important.
Stephen, thank you very much, very interesting.
You're very welcome, thank you, Ian.